You know that person who seems to have everything figured out? Who controls everyone, has authority, influence, status? That person was me. I dictated terms, manipulated situations, made the rules. Everyone listened to me. Everyone feared me. At least that's what I thought. But there was a day when I met someone who showed me a crushing truth. I commanded everyone except myself. And that encounter completely shattered my world. Subscribe to the channel right now. Smash that like button. Because I'm absolutely certain that Jesus is going to bless your life through this message. You're not here by coincidence. Trust me on this. All right, let me tell you from the very beginning who I was and how Jesus demolished my facade of control. My name doesn't matter, but my position mattered. I was a Pharisee, and if you don't know what that means, it was basically being part of the religious elite of that time. I knew God's law backwards and forwards. I fasted twice every week. I tithed everything I owned, even the smallest things. I prayed publicly. I was respected, admired, envied. People saw me and thought, this guy has his life together. This guy is righteous. This guy pleases God. And I believed it. I genuinely thought I was better than others, better than sinners, better than tax collectors, better than that scum who didn't follow the rules like I did. I had authority, political authority, religious authority, social authority. When I spoke, people listened. When I decided, things happened. When I judged, people were condemned or acquitted. I was significant. I was somebody. Or at least that's what I convinced myself. On that particular day, I went to the temple to pray, like I always did. But it wasn't just any prayer. It was a performance. I knew people were watching. I knew my prayer would be heard, not only by God, but by everyone around me. And I wanted to make an impression. I positioned myself right in the center, where everyone could see me. I raised my hands to heaven, closed my eyes, and started praying loudly. Oh God, I thank you because I am not like other people. I'm not a thief, not corrupt, not an adulterer. I'm not like that tax collector over there. Yes, I pointed. There was this guy in the back of the temple, a tax collector, a traitor to our people, a man who worked for the Romans, who stole from our community, who was despised by everyone. And I was thanking God for not being like him. I fast twice a week. I continue my prayer. I give a tenth of everything I possess. I follow all the commandments. I am faithful. I am righteous. I am worthy. And I genuinely believed every word. Each sentence that came out of my mouth, I believed it. I thought God was impressed with me. I thought I was the perfect example of how a human being should be. I thought my self-righteousness made me superior while I prayed. Occasionally, I'd open my eyes to see who was watching me, and it was during one of those glances that I saw him, the tax collector. He was standing way in the back, far from everyone. He didn't even dare lift his eyes to heaven. He was beating his chest, and I could hear him murmuring, "Oh God, have mercy on me, a sinner." I gave a smirk. Pathetic, I thought. This man is pathetic. He doesn't even know how to pray properly. He doesn't have the courage to come closer. He knows he's unworthy. And I was certain that God thought the same thing. I finished my prayer, satisfied with myself. I had done everything right. I had shown God and everyone there how righteous I was. I had made it clear that I wasn't like that societal trash. I was different. I was superior. But then something happened that destroyed me from the inside. Something that took days, weeks, even months for me to fully process. I heard about a teaching from Jesus. Yes, that Jesus who walked with sinners, who ate with tax collectors, who challenged our traditions. He had told a parable. And when I heard this parable, my world collapsed. Because the parable was about me. It was about that day in the temple. It was about my prayer. And the ending of the story destroyed me. Jesus said that the tax collector, that pathetic man I despised, went home justified. Justified. And me, who did everything right. Me, who follow all the rules. Me, who am righteous. I was not justified. Because everyone who exalts themselves will be humbled, and whoever humbles themselves will be exalted. I couldn't sleep that night. What do you mean? How could that sinner be justified and not me? I do everything correctly. I follow all the regulations. I'm better than him. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized the devastating truth. I controlled everyone, but I didn't control myself. I commanded the people around me, but I didn't command my pride. I judged others, but I didn't judge my own heart. I thought I had power, but the only power that mattered, power over myself, I didn't possess. My pride was my master. My arrogance controlled me. My need to be seen, admired, respected, that dominated every decision I made. I was a slave to my own superiority, and I didn't even realize it. The tax collector, on the other hand, he knew who he was. He knew he was a sinner. He knew he needed mercy. He didn't try to impress anyone. He didn't try to justify himself. He simply was authentic with God, and God accepted him. This crushed me, because it meant that everything I built, all my reputation, all my authority, all my self-righteousness, was worth nothing before God, worse than nothing. It was an obstacle. It was a wall I had constructed between myself and God. In the days following that revelation, I started observing Jesus more closely. I wanted to understand. I needed to understand. How could it be that my righteousness, which I had constructed with so much effort, was worthless? How could it be that a confessed sinner was more accepted by God than I was? I began following Jesus discreetly. I watched him interacting with people I despised. Prostitutes, tax collectors, lepers, sinners of every kind. And you know what shocked me? He didn't condemn them. He loved them. He accepted them. He transformed them. And then I realized something that completely broke me. Jesus didn't reject these people because they knew they needed him. They were honest about their condition. They didn't pretend to be what they weren't. And because of that, they could receive what Jesus offered: grace, forgiveness, transformation. But me, I was so full of myself that there was no room for God. I was so convinced of my own righteousness that I didn't see my need for salvation. I was so busy controlling others that I didn't notice I was controlled by my own ego. There was a day when I finally had the courage to approach Jesus. It was at night, because I was afraid of what the other Pharisees would think. My reputation was still important to me, even though I knew that was exactly the problem. Jesus received me as if he had been expecting me. He didn't judge me. He didn't condemn me. He simply looked into my eyes with a depth that made me feel completely exposed and completely loved at the same time. I heard your parable. I started, not quite knowing how to continue. About the Pharisee and the tax collector. It was about me, wasn't it? Jesus smiled gently. What do you think? I took a deep breath. For the first time in my life, I was going to be completely honest. I think so. And I think I've been a fool. I thought my righteousness made me special. I thought my rule following made me superior. But actually, I was just feeding my pride. Go on. Jesus encouraged me. I control many people, I confessed, and my voice began to shake. I have authority, influence. People respect me, obey me, but I realize I don't control myself. My pride controls me. My arrogance dominates me. My need to be seen as righteous is like a monster inside me that I can't defeat. Jesus nodded. You're beginning to see the truth. But I don't know what to do with this. I admitted. My entire life has been built around being better than others, following the rules, being seen as righteous. If I'm not that, who am I? And then Jesus said something that changed everything. You're a man who needs mercy, just like that tax collector, just like all the sinners you despise. The difference is they know it, and you're only beginning to discover it. Tears started rolling down my face. I, who always maintained my composure, who always presented myself as superior, was crying in front of Jesus. And you know what? For the first time in my life, I felt free. I want to change, I whispered, but I don't know how. Start by doing exactly what that tax collector did. Jesus responded, be honest about who you are. Stop trying to impress God. Stop trying to impress people. Just be authentic. Acknowledge your need. Ask for mercy. That night, I prayed genuinely for the first time in my life. It wasn't a performance. It wasn't to impress anyone. It was just me and God. And I said the same words the tax collector said. Oh, God, have mercy on me, a sinner. And you know what happened? I felt something I had never felt in all my elaborate prayers, in all my fasts, in all my rituals. I felt peace. I felt acceptance. I felt love, not because I deserved it, but simply because God is merciful. In the following months, my life changed radically. I started letting go of my need to control everything and everyone. I started working on real control of myself, of my pride, my arrogance, my need to be superior. And it was the hardest thing I've ever done, because while controlling others was easy, I just needed authority and influence. Controlling myself required something much deeper. It required humility. It required brutal honesty with myself. It required recognizing my failures every single day. I lost friends. Many of my Pharisee colleagues rejected me when they saw my transformation. They accused me of betraying our traditions, of associating with sinners, of losing my moral superiority. And they were right. I lost all of that. And I've never felt so liberated, because I discovered that true power isn't controlling others. True power is controlling yourself. It's having mastery over your own heart. It's choosing humility when everything in you wants to choose pride. It's acknowledging your need when everything in you wants to pretend self-sufficiency. And you know what else I discovered? That the more I released control over others, the more control I gained over myself. The more I stopped judging, the more I saw my own failures. The more I humbled myself, the stronger I became internally. Jesus taught me something revolutionary. He showed me that humility isn't weakness. Humility is strength. It takes far more courage to admit you're wrong than to insist you're right. It takes far more power to humble yourself than to exalt yourself. I started seeing people differently. That tax collector I despised, I went looking for him. I asked forgiveness for how I treated him. And you know what he did? He hugged me. He forgave me. And we became friends. He taught me about mercy in a way that all my religious studies never did. The prostitutes, the sinners, the outcasts of society. I started spending time with them, not to convert them or judge them, but to learn from them. And I learned so much. I learned about honesty, about vulnerability, about grace. They didn't have masks like I had. They didn't pretend to be what they weren't. They were authentic. And in that authenticity, they had access to something that I, with all my religiosity, never had, a genuine relationship with God. Let me tell you something. You might be feeling like I felt. Maybe you have authority, influence, status. Maybe people look at you and think you have everything under control. Maybe you even believe it yourself. But I want to ask you a question. Do you control yourself? Do you have mastery over your pride, over your arrogance, over your need to be seen as superior? Or do these things control you? Because if you're honest, you'll realize that most of us don't have control over ourselves. We're controlled by our egos, our fears, our insecurities disguised as superiority. We command others because we can't command ourselves. And that's a prison. A prison that looks like a palace. A slavery that looks like freedom. An emptiness that looks like fullness. But deep down, you know something isn't right. You know that beneath all this facade of control, you're internally out of control. Jesus offers a way out, but it's not an easy way out. It's not a way out that keeps your ego intact. It's a way out that requires death. Death of your pride. Death of your need to be superior. Death of your self-sufficiency. But that death leads to life. To real life. To abundant life. To free life. Because when you die to yourself, you can finally live for something greater. When you lose control over others, you gain control over yourself. When you humble yourself, you are exalted not by men but by God. I learned that it's not about how many rules you follow. It's not about how many fasts you do. It's not about how much money you give. It's not about how religious you appear. It's about your heart. It's about honesty. It's about humility. It's about acknowledging your need for mercy. The tax collector understood this. He had nothing to offer God except his honesty. He couldn't boast about his achievements. He couldn't list his good deeds. All he could do was beat his chest and ask for mercy. And it was enough. It was more than enough. While I, with all my credentials, with all my religiosity, with all my self-righteousness, I was empty. I was far from God. Not because God was far from me, but because I had built a wall of pride so high that I couldn't even see God on the other side. Jesus taught me to tear down that wall, brick by brick, choice by choice, humiliation by humiliation. And every time a part of the wall fell, I saw God more clearly. I felt him closer. I knew him more deeply. And the irony is that the more I humbled myself, the more real power I had. Not power over others, but power over myself. Power to choose right when wrong seemed easier. Power to love when hate seemed justified. Power to forgive when revenge seemed deserved. That's real power. The power that comes from humility. The power that comes from controlling yourself, not others. The power that comes from depending on God, not on your own righteousness. Now, before I finish, I want to do something very important. I want to invite you to do what that tax collector did. And what I finally learned to do, I want to invite you to be honest with God and with yourself. You don't need to have everything under control. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be superior to others. Actually, the more you try to be these things, the further you are from what really matters. What matters is humility. It's honesty. It's acknowledging that you need mercy, that you need God, that you can't do this alone. And that's okay. That's more than okay. That's exactly where God meets you. So now, wherever you are, I want you to pray with me. Not a prayer to impress, not a prayer to show how good you are, but a real prayer, honest from the heart. If you want to do this, say this with me. Oh God, have mercy on me, a sinner. I know I'm not better than anyone. I know I need you. I've been trying to control everything and everyone, but I can't even control myself. I've been living off my pride, my arrogance, my need to be superior. But I want to change. I want real power, power over myself. I want humility. I want honesty. I want to truly know you. Have mercy on me. Transform my heart. In Jesus' name, amen. If you pray that prayer now with a sincere heart, I want to tell you something. You just went down justified, just like the tax collector, just like I finally learned to be. You're no longer defined by your pride. You're defined by God's mercy. And from now on, your journey will be about learning to control yourself. It won't be easy. There will be days when your pride will scream louder. There will be moments when you'll want to go back to exalting yourself. But don't give up. Keep choosing humility. Keep acknowledging your need. Keep asking for mercy, because that's the Christian journey. It's not about being perfect. It's about being honest. It's not about controlling others. It's about controlling yourself. It's not about exalting yourself. It's about humbling yourself so God can exalt you. I want to encourage you to share this message, because there are many people out there who are in the same situation I was in. People who command everyone but don't control themselves. People who seem to have everything under control on the outside but are out of control on the inside. And they need to hear this. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, subscribe now. Hit that like button on this video, because it helps more people find this message. And turn on notifications so you don't miss the next videos, because I'll keep sharing stories of how Jesus transforms lives. And leave in the comments, did you identify with the Pharisee or the tax collector? Or maybe with both at different times? Have you been struggling to control yourself? How has that journey been for you? I want to read your story. Remember, true power isn't controlling others. It's controlling yourself. And you can't do that alone. You need humility. You need honesty. You need God. And when you acknowledge that, when you humble yourself, that's when real transformation happens. This is my story. The story of a power broker who controlled everyone but couldn't control himself. A man who thought he was better than others, but discovered he was just as sinful as anyone. A man who exalted himself and was humbled, but who learned that in humiliation lies true exaltation. And this can be your story too. It doesn't matter how much authority you have. It doesn't matter how many people you control. It doesn't matter how religious you appear. What matters is your heart. And if your heart is full of pride, you need to empty it. You need to humble yourself. You need to acknowledge your need. Because everyone who exalts themselves will be humbled. But whoever humbles themselves will be exalted. This isn't just a nice phrase. It's a spiritual law. It's a truth I learned the hard way. But it's a truth that transforms lives. So stop trying to control everyone. Start working on controlling yourself. Stop exalting yourself. Start humbling yourself. Stop pretending you have everything figured out. Start being honest about your struggles, your failures, your needs. And when you do that, when you truly humble yourself before God, you'll discover something incredible. You'll discover that God was waiting for you all along, not waiting for you to be perfect, not waiting for you to have everything under control, but waiting for you to be honest, waiting for you to acknowledge your need, waiting for you to ask for mercy. And when you ask, He gives, not because you deserve it, but simply because He is merciful. And that mercy transforms everything. It transforms your pride into humility, your arrogance into meekness, your control over others into control over yourself, your empty religiosity into real relationship. I'm praying for you. I'm praying that you'll have the courage to humble yourself. I'm praying that you'll acknowledge your need for mercy. I'm praying that you'll discover real power, the power that comes from controlling yourself through God's strength. May God bless you. May Jesus transform you. And may the Holy Spirit give you wisdom to choose humility over pride, honesty over appearance, real relationship over empty religiosity. Until the next video. And remember, whoever humbles themselves will be exalted. That's Jesus' way. And it's the only way that truly works.